Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 142. Raju in the house, recorded on Friday, April 16th, 2021 from Zenatta Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt. And this week, as the title would imply, we are joined here by Raju Vegesna, the Chief Evangelist of Zoho. So we're really happy to have you here, Raju.
Great to be here, Tyler and Brett. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm glad you could. So we've been asking for 142 episodes. Glad you could make time finally.
A busy man.
Really, this was actually came together really quick. Someone brought it up and you jumped right on it. So we're glad you could join us. We're gonna have fun this episode. All right. So first of all, we'll start with some announcements and events. Next Tuesday, we are going to do our Zoho People Overview and Best Practices. That'll be at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Tyler and I sat down with our resident Zoho People expert, Raquel, this week. And man, oh man, this app's got a lot. So this is going to be an overview and best practices because there's, I think it would take us 9 hours to actually go through everything that you can do inside Zoho People. But that'll be a good one if you're just getting started. And then as always, all of the Zoho events, those put on by Zoho, other partners, anybody, if you head over to crmzen.com and you click on events, we've aggregated them all there, and you'll have the links to go register for all of those. So this week, you've got some multi-channel support and time tracking with Zoho Desk, and then Zoho Backstage for administrators, and a lot more. So just go ahead and head over to crmzen.com/events. Now let's get right on into the news. Wow. Kind of a big announcement that has not been announced, but it's gone public. So it's this Zoho Learn, which, gosh, we've known about for a very, very long time, is now open to the public. It's kind of a soft launch. It's something we can talk about, but I think the big announcement will be coming out soon. But for those of you that don't know, this is Zoho's LMS, and it is really, really nice. I got to play around with it over the last long period of time here, and I like it. So Raju, I mean, you guys have been working on this forever. I know that once it launched in Zoho People, the idea was to get this out, but I think this is going to be a big hit.
Yeah, it's also a transition internally with in the past we've had Wiki. How do we bring in the Wiki capability in there and transition users from Wiki to Learn? And then there are a lot of components to learning management. There is a self-paced learning, there is a live learning part of it. So Zoho Learn falls into the self-paced learning. When it comes to live learning, that is where things like show time and all of those can come in. Eventually, I expect those to integrate and whatnot. But yeah, learning management is an important component, both on the HR side as well as collaboration side.
Yeah, it's
nice. And it's actually a type of tool that we get asked about more and more. I think a lot more companies are starting to find out how valuable this can really be, right? Because there's all this information that you would like a new employee to learn, right? And so if you don't have a tool to manage that process, you kind of just rely on them learning it on the job or learning it when someone mentions it at the water cooler, right? But having tools like this, you can actually standardize and then track the progress, through learning the variety of things that encourage success.
Yeah, and then learning management is only the front end part of it. How it is designed at the back end is equally important now. There's a LMS, but then there is a CMS at the back end that has to be done right. But then a CMS, which is a content management system, has to tie with, let's say, a TMS, a translation management system, because the content that you put in there has to be translated into multiple languages and all of that. So there's a lot of complexity that is underneath, has to be done right. The plumbing work, if you don't get it right, it's going to go back later. So it certainly took us some time, and this is just a 1.0 version of it.
That's going to be great. And the pricing on this is pretty reasonable across the board. Is this going to be part of Zoho One? I haven't checked that yet.
It will be.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
awesome.
Fantastic.
We're going to have to set this up for ourselves.
All right. And then Orchestly has now been renamed Qntrl. Qntrl. This looks pretty, this is interesting. So we're spinning this out completely, it looks like, Tyler. We're going to it's going to be a whole new brand. It's going to be outside of Zoho One now. Looks like they're going to be doing a ton more development to the product at the end of the day. And I know this is one that we've kind of dabbled in a little bit, but we actually haven't really rolled this out to a lot of clients yet.
Yeah, not quite yet ourselves. It's an interesting product because though we're obviously a little biased, majority of our clients are always on Zoho One. So we kind of think about things just as they apply to the Zoho One ecosystem. But an interesting thing about Qntrl and one of the reasons that, it might work as a standalone product is that you can do a lot more than just tie into Zoho apps with this. So like an example that was kind of provided is for an employee onboarding workflow, right? So maybe there's a set of steps and at a certain point, we need to add them to the HR system, right? Well, Qntrl can do that for you. And then we might need to add them as a salesperson to the ERP system. Well, Qntrl can do that for you. And so it's a way to kind of build out your business workflow agnostic of whatever tool needs to be set up or used for that part of the process. And with this update, they're adding a lot under the hood as well. Support for widgets, client-side scripts, looks like some data bridges that are going to be built. And then a big one is that you can actually create a database and table structure just within Qntrl. So it seems like it's going kind of an interesting direction to maybe get some usage, outside of just the Zoho ecosystem.
It's interesting. So I remember in 2019, Raju, you stood on stage and you said, if you want to know our product roadmap, it's basically anything we use at Zoho, anything we need at Zoho, we're going to build. So I have a feeling that this must have come out of some big internal need to automate a lot of processes, I would imagine.
Yeah, it kind of bubbled up from there. There is a process for everything. Initially, it started at a process at the individual product level or a department level. Take something like a CRM. CRM has a workflow, a blueprint, right? But that is within the sales context. Similarly, for an employee approval system, there is a process, like a blueprint for it. In the customer support context, there is a process. But then not all processes are within that ecosystem. There are some processes that touch across various departments. In some cases, even external, that is outside the organization. How do we capture all of that? So that is where Qntrl comes in. That goes beyond a specific process that is tied to a specific department.
Yeah, it's nice. So it's coming out of Zoho One, but at the same time, it's going to set. Is it going to be still part of Zoho? Is there a whole separate division this is going to run under now?
This is a new division, like we have Manage Engine, which is a separate division. We're launching a Qntrl as a separate division itself, which means its go-to-market strategy is going to be different. The target market is going to be different. The way it's going to be run is going to be slightly different compared to Zoho.
Nice. All right. And then some more Zoho news updates. Tyler, you're going to love this one. So major Zoho update to Zoho Desk's API. This actually came out just an hour ago. We got it into the show at the very last minute. But hey, we got time zone compatibility now.
Gotcha. It's kind of a couple little fixes here. I know anyone who works within any kind of scripting language will know time zones are always tricky. Sounds like they kind of just identified an issue looking at a couple of these different parameters that just weren't lining up quite right based on the different time zones that they have to process. So good on them for kind of identifying that and rolling out a fix.
Yeah, good stuff. And that's been, it is, like you say, one of the most difficult things is managing time zones with the APIs. Especially we do a lot of work in Creator, getting the time zones crossing Creator and doing all that. So nice to see that. All right. And then Zoho Desk has now added 15 new extensions, a whole bunch. So this is over in the Zoho marketplace. I don't know if we've covered all these in the past, but we've always talked about the marketplace, and it seems like every single, it's just hundreds and hundreds of new apps are getting added, and there's just some great stuff here. So any of these jump out at you, Tyler?
Yeah, I know the Magento integration will be nice to have. Desk already has some of those integrations with, Zoho Inventory and some of their order management systems. But for people who are working within Magento for e-commerce, that's a really nice tie-in. Again, Shopify, I think, might have been there. That might be an update that slipped into this list. I thought that one was already there, but there's a huge use case for ticketing around e-commerce products. Hey, when's this going to ship? Oh, this shipped to the wrong address, right? It's rife with customer service needs. It's just interesting over the past couple of years, ever since the launch of Zoho Catalyst and Sigma, we just see so many plugins coming to market now because it's so much easier to deploy and build them out. I'll never forget at the dev conference when they walked through, something that might take you 50,000 lines of code is taking you 5,000 when you're using those platforms. And so that development spin up is just so much faster nowadays.
Yeah, that is And then moving on here, we've got Cliq updates for February and March. I'm pretty sure we got all of these. I know the new nav sidebar just been huge.
Love
For
that.
those, yeah, if you're not using Cliq, if you're on Slack, get off of Slack and move on over. The integration is beautiful. Everything comes over. All your groups will come over. All your people will come over. It's just such a slick transition. And this seems to be one of the products that is just in a rapid state of development. I mean, I think because I imagine Zoho lives inside it as we do, and a lot of our clients do. So I would think that the feature requests on this come hot and heavy, and you guys seem to be doing a lot of work on these, Raju.
Cliq, it moves fast, and that is between Cliq and Connect. That captures 99% of our communication out there, and it is improving on a daily basis. So, yeah, Cliq moves really fast. There's a lot more coming. There's a lot of quality improvements, particularly in the context of voice, audio, video, because all our calls. I don't remember the last time I made a call on the phone network. All my calls are on Cliq. So that part is going through several things. And then there is Cliq team is also working on the broader broadcast, where you pull in a few thousand people onto a room and just broadcast the stream. So things like that. There's a lot of work going on in that front.
Yeah. So is Clubhouse coming next? You're just going to add kind of like some open channels? Could have a little Clubhouse kind of thing here. Everybody's doing Clubhouse, so I expect that's got to be down the road. I'm not sure.
Well, if you consider security and privacy, if you take privacy and security seriously, the virality automatically dies down. So we take privacy pretty seriously.
I agree, but you could have an internal Cliq channel that only your employees have access to. That's like your own little Clubhouse.
And you can actually do that. Yeah, that's kind of where they're expanding some of those broadcast functionalities. Josh and I were playing around with that a couple weeks back, and it is pretty cool. And we just find ourselves using this tool for everything, especially because it's API enabled. So for us, all of our internal notifications all go through Cliq. If someone says that they're blocked on a task, that goes to the block channel. When we win a deal, that goes to that channel so the team can know. I mean, there's such a benefit to moving to it and getting out of your email inbox for internal communications, because it's much better.
Totally. I mean, I'm excited about where it is headed. You look at Cliq as an independent app, but when Cliq makes its way into context, a customer context or an employee context or a project context, then its usage significantly, it adds a lot of value to that context, and that is the direction we are headed. So I'm very excited about Cliq. I mean, it's one of my favorite apps.
Yeah. We have a creator app that runs a big chunk of Zenatta, and it's got so many integrations into Cliq. When a developer needs help on a deal, if we need to get something approved, it's been completed. All of those things just instantly go into Cliq. It's a beautiful form of communication. All right, and back to the marketplace here. This is kind of cool. So the marketplace has now introduced some partner offers. So basically, these are some quarterly offers. You've got 11 partners that have said, hey, guess what? We're going to give you a special deal on our various marketplace applications. SMS Magic is one that we talk about all the time. Phone Burner, I tell you what, we've been talking about.
We just found that one recently. Yeah, that's a fantastic tool. If you're doing outbound, that's one to check out for sure.
Yeah, it's great. The funny thing is that one came up, and then I think instantly like 4 or 5 clients after that, right? It was just like,
now we're just seeing it everywhere. It's like when you start thinking about a red Jeep, you start to see it all over the road. Now that we know about Phone Burner, it's everywhere we look.
Yeah, so check out these offers over in the marketplace. All right, and then we've got OAuth Reborn. Tyler, take us through this one.
Yes, this is kind of an update that's been going on for a long time, right? This shouldn't be really much of a surprise, but this kind of an end capper on, Zoho moving away from auth tokens basically across the board and consolidating everything to OAuth. Though there is, of course, the upfront lift, you're going to have to move your API connections over and, maybe rebuild some of those authentications. This is definitely the optimum way to move forward and ensure the highest level of security. And I know that's a big deal for you guys, Raju.
It is. And Yeah, auth tokens on the security side, it has some limitations, and the trend is really to move towards multi-factor authentication, and this one does support that multi-factor authentication. And then there is another aspect, another transition that's happening, behind the scenes, and it has to do with signing in across various modes. I mean, historically, if you look at it, Zoho has been email-centric. Authentication happened through email. Now we support phone number-based sign-in. Just phone number and then OTP, one-time password, and then you're in. And then how do we do that transition? Because for us, we take email for granted, but in some countries it's not. Take a country like India. India has 40 million desktops and 400 million smartphones. So the other 340 million or 360 million people don't have an email address for the most part, right? How do you authenticate them? Phone number is the only way. So which means there's no password. So you just enter your phone number, you get an OTP, and then enter that, you're done. So that becomes an important. So there is a two-factor authentication in there. So like that, introducing multiple factors on one side, introducing additional forms of authentication is on the side, and making sure that the backend systems are supported. So there's a lot of backend work that went into it, and then securing it at the front end is one layer on top of it.
And it's actually interesting. We were playing around with that for one of our clients recently, that you can, within Zoho One, you can actually enable, like you're mentioning, a 2FA sign-in that doesn't even require a password. So you enter your email and it sends you a code every time, or you enter a phone number and it sends you a code every single time. And it's really interesting. I mean, it's the most common reasons that there are any security issues is someone getting your password, right? I mean, that's how most of the time it's going to happen. And so being able to actually institute for your organization that 2FA is just how you log in, there's a lot of value there in terms of security.
And in all the developing countries have already been there, and that is the primary way of authentication. I think we are now catching up to it. But I am, because with the number of accounts we have, all of us have, how often do we repeat the passwords? Pretty much, right? Mm-hmm. So now you completely eliminate it. Then how do we make it easy? Like there are a few things we are thinking. Let's say you're logged into the desktop and you want to log into your mobile device. Then logging on the mobile is always a painful way. Can we do something where you go to your account page and show a QR code and point your camera in there? You're automatically logged into a mobile app. So it's not even passwordless. You're not entering anything in there. So that's the direction. Those are the things we are thinking in terms of making it seamless yet secure.
Yeah, I mean, we've come a long way from RSA token keys, huh? They used to sit down your keychain. those numbers refreshing every 10 seconds.
We still have to support it, though. We still support it.
Do you really?
We have to. Yeah.
All right. And Sridhar needs to clear off yet more room on his shelf. He was honored as GameChanger of 2020. He got the Padma Shri. He's part of the Indian version of the NSA. I don't know. This stuff just keeps stacking up. So a nice award for Sridhar. And pretty cool stuff here.
It is.
Yeah. So he just, this is nice. So this is pretty much this award, a nice panel. I mean, it was up against some fairly interesting people to get this award. And, he's just done some amazing things over there. I think we talk about this a lot, but, from a game changer, the entire ruralization, moving thing into rural communities. We talk about these small little pods of maybe 20 people. You can set them up anywhere. It kind of really decentralizing things. And I think it's an interesting move, and one that I think a lot of companies, I was actually reading a magazine article last night, and they called it the Zoom effect. And what they were referring to was the fact that because of COVID, more and more people now can live anywhere. Right. Mm-hmm. And so you're starting to see real estate prices actually, change. And people are people had always said, oh, I really want to move down to Mexico, but I can't because of my job. Well, now they can move to Mexico. They can move to a rural village in Mexico if they want to. As long as you've got good internet, you pretty much can live anywhere and do your job. And, Zoho was pretty well positioned for this, and that it had pretty much all the tools to allow you to work remotely from day one. I mean, you guys rolled out remotely was it in March, right when COVID hit? Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of things for free as well.
Yeah.
A lot of those product offerings that you guys put out that basically gave everyone the core tools that you need to go remote, and it was just free at the time. So it's been interesting to see the adoption curve, especially with just the value that you get for Zoho, as a lot of companies have kind of been forced to decide right now that it's time to go remote.
So is it true that the village that Sridhar is living in now, they had to build a whole separate building just to house all his awards and everything? Did he keep them all in? Did that really happen?
Well, I think he still doesn't have an AC in that. So after maybe. Yeah.
Oh, you got internet. You don't have AC, I guess.
Yeah. Well, actually, believe it or not, for the first 6 months he moved into the village, his primary internet connection was his hotspot on his phone. So he was running the company on a hotspot for the first 6 months after he moved to the village.
Well, I imagine he was burning through his data caps every month.
Well, actually, India is much generous when it comes to data caps and whatnot. I can believe it's 1 GB a day is what you get with your and the entire thing costs $20 a month.
Wow, nice. All right, and then in mobile news, the Bigin Android app adds call capture duration. This is something, just a small little announcement, but more and more people are making the calls from their phones, and you want to log that information, and this is just nice. It's been on iOS for a little while, but it's nice that it got added over to the Android side. And then also in mobile, over on iOS, if you're using Zoho Sprints, you now have epics on the iOS app. So again, a rather nice. And basically, these are, as you're doing sprints, you can have baby sprints and you can have epics in the sprints. So if you're familiar with Jira and that entire form of basically project management, this is just a nice attachment, and the iOS gets better. Is this also, I imagine if it's the iOS app, has this also moved over to iPad as well? My guess is yes.
I think so.
They tend to go hand in hand. All right, Tyler, that brings us to the implementation of the week. What do you got?
Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting implementation that we did using Zoho Analytics. So it's basically a way to consolidate a lot of your different user management tools into one dashboard. So a common issue people have just with 3 applications is you'll have one user who is assigned tasks in the CRM. Maybe they own some tickets over in Desk. Maybe they're working on some project work, so they're owning tasks there as well. Maybe they're even logging time in all these various applications. Specifically, Desk and Projects have kind of pre-built tools to be logging different timesheets. And a common issue that people have is that I have this one person, but I want to know everything that they're doing. I want to know what they're assigned. I want to know where they're logging time. And a challenge is that when you have these things in different applications, it can become kind of a game of hunt and peck, where I go to Desk and I pull the timesheet report, and then I go to Projects and I pull it, and I'm kind of comparing them, or maybe I'm working this stuff up in Excel. But using Zoho Analytics, we can kind of streamline the process. So all of those applications can just be synced into one workspace in Analytics. When you do that, one of the huge advantages is that without getting too nitty gritty, Analytics will line up a lot of the connections between things for you. So like a customer account in Desk and a client account in Projects and an account in CRM are connected behind the scenes. You can report on them all at once. And then we use the little query builder within Analytics to kind of reorganize the data, right? Sometimes a timesheet in Desk looks a little different than a timesheet in Projects. So we need to remove a column or maybe rename some things and get things formatted. But then once you do that, you can roll things up into one dashboard and one filter for a user and basically show all their open tasks and tickets, all their different timesheet entries. You can even go as far as to say all the different timesheets against a certain client account to see where your certain team members are spending a lot of time. And so you're basically just able to report on the current state of a user in all these different kind of angles, whether it's open activities, closed activities, timesheet entries, all in one place, so that a manager doesn't have to hunt and peck to find that information. And we've kind of talked about similar implementations kind of over time. This one has actually just kind of continued to grow, but I think it highlights a lot of the values of having an ecosystem of applications rather than, having a point solution for each of these different tools that you need for your business, because once you have everything in one ecosystem, you can report on it in tandem.
Nice. Slick implementation. You could also roll the books time tracking into this too, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Nice. All right. And that brings us to a read of the week. Shocking. We chose an interview with you, Raju. Well, who's this handsome guy here? I don't know. I think this was some Photoshop stuff going on. Anyway, this was over at Diginomica. I love the site. Jon Reed. Anyway, he interviewed you. I think this was, and you were talking about privacy is not a feature. I know this is something that you've talked about forever. And I know, that last quote that I showed on the slide, Apple's approach to privacy is one that I think Zoho adheres to very much as well, right? That it's the customer's data is the customer's data. It's not for sale. Talk to us a little bit about how you guys kind of arrived at privacy and what, because this has been something from day one, right down to your own data centers across the board.
Absolutely. I mean, doing advertising on our site and tracking users for the sake of doing advertising never appealed to us. So right from the get-go, in the last 25 years, we never advertised. And that tells the mindset and the thinking behind it. People think, free apps and whatnot. There are three models here. You pay for an app using money, or you pay for an app using your data, or you pay for an app using someone else's data, which is even worse. All three are pretty common in the market. We basically choose the first route, where you pay and we give you an app. Now, but we go one step further and say even our free apps are free. There's no catch there. So we do not track, we do not sell, we do not do ads, and even the free apps, and we have a free app pretty much across the board. So that is the privacy part is really built into our DNA. I don't ever see us doing advertising within Zoho apps. That simply is something that we do not believe in.
Yeah, it's interesting. We recently, as a company, switched from Chrome to the Brave browser, which is based on Chromium, which Chrome is based on. And so when you do that, everything you've set up, all of your extensions, all your plugins, everything just comes over naturally. But the nice thing is it blocks everything. And it gives you a little counter up at the top. And it tells you how many tracking codes it's blocked, how many cookies it's blocked, all the different things blocked. And man, anytime you're in a Zoho app, you click on it, it's zero. Because there is nothing going on. And you think it would be like that for a lot of, but it's really the only web app I use that comes up zero every single time.
And that's a very, very conscious effort, Brett. I think in 2015 is when we made a call that we will not have any third-party trackers within the company. So, which means we had to work really hard to get rid of, let's say, how do we get rid of Google Analytics from our website? You will not find Google Analytics embedded, Google Tag Manager anywhere on our website. How do we get rid of all the Facebook likes and all of those? These are all Trojan horses that basically let you track. How do you get rid of Google Fonts? Again, that's another Trojan horse, right? So across the board, and that is not just on the website. How do we get rid of those on the app side, mobile apps, web apps, and whatnot? Getting rid of these trackers is only one part. What do you replace with? In some cases, we had to develop our own analytics tool, and there are a ton of things like that. How do you replace Google Font? Well, maybe we create our own font. That's how our font, who we came to be. That's how our entire website is on our own font. A ton of work that went into it. So it's not something where, I have a privacy section on our app and then, you can configure a few things. That is how people approach it. Companies approach it. They treat it as a feature. But it's a philosophy and it's a belief system. It has to come from the top. And what's happening, and something unexpected happened during this process. Our employees started to be really happy about our stance. Just like a lot of employees are happy about an environmental stance a company takes, The same way, the privacy stance a company takes is something that is very much appreciated by our employees, and they respect that. Now, more than external people, they are vigilant on what's happening and what should our stance be, and they are on top of things. And whenever there is a mistake here or there, they are the ones to point out to keep ourselves honest. So I really love that. So it is basically now baked into our daily thinking.
Yeah, so I would imagine when Apple made this huge change where everybody had to disclose what they were doing, you guys had to make no changes whatsoever, huh?
You just say yes. It's simple. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So moving on, then we have what's new on Zenatta. We've got some really nice blogs. So our first one that actually just dropped today, I think actually 2 days ago, was building the perfect drip campaign. This will apply to whether or not you're using Zoho Campaigns or whether or not you're going to use Zoho Marketing Hub, or basically if you're using any other marketing automation tool. But we take you through step by step everything that is going on, segmenting your subscribers, breaking down your drips, how you want to build them out, how you can improve your conversion rates. Take a look. Pretty good article here. Raju, for I think about the first year we were doing little 500-word blogs, and then we just kind of changed everything, and we decided to change things over to these longer form blogs, and it's been nice. It's been worth the extra investment because I think they're offering a little more. And then we've got 5 best practices for performance reviews. If you look at our blog rollout this month, you'll notice there's something here, 5 job boards, questions you should ask candidates, HR software. Why? That's all leading up to our Zoho People webinar. So we've got some good stuff coming up there. So head over to Zenatta.com to check those out.
It's an amazing piece of content out there. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Thank you. And then we also do this thing where we scour the internet to find all these little PDFs that Zoho's created that they're sitting in some folder everywhere. So we actually found when we first do this, we had a bunch of them and we could just drop a couple a week. Now, if we can get one a week, we're lucky. So we found a great one this week, which is on how recruiters can use social media to make better recruitment matches. And so a super nice guide that's been put out by Zoho that kind of ties all of this stuff together as part of Zoho Recruit. So check that out as well. All righty. And then that brings us to our application of the week. Tyler, this is the first one. So for those of you that don't know, we talk about linkmatch.net all the time. It is an absolute great plugin and extension for Zoho. You go into LinkedIn, you look at the person, that you want to add into Zoho CRM, and it does it for you. And it does a super, super nice job. It's $9.99 a month. This is the first one I've seen that even comes close, and it's free. It's it's called LinkPort for Zoho CRM. And it kind of fills that niche. It writes to leads. It's, it's pretty good. I tried it. I played around with it. I think they're getting real close with this one. And you could save $120 a year if you wanted to, just by checking this one out, because it's actually a free application and it's developed by Cliq. It's for CRM. A little different. It kind of pulls everything in over here, does a super nice job, adds it into the CRM. It's decent. I like it a lot.
Yeah, one interesting thing here that this application seems to have is an integration with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is a little different than with LinkMatch, which is only running on your connected contacts on LinkedIn. So if you are a heavy user of Sales Navigator, maybe worth taking a look at. Though I will say, I believe there is a Sales Navigator plugin for CRM as is. So you'll kind of want to maybe try out a couple of them and see which one works best for your workflow.
Yeah, this one's pretty good. I actually, on the LinkMatch, will pull anything in. It just won't give you that much information, right? It'll kind of pull the basic contact in, but no email, no phone number. I think if you get Sales Navigator, does it then pull in the email and phone number?
I'm not sure how it ties into LinkMatch.
Sales Navigator is not cheap. I mean, a couple grand a year.
It's not cheap at all.
By the time you're all done there. So anyway, a good alternative for those of you that maybe were a little price conscious, and take a look at it. Pretty good all the way around. All right, then our tip and trick of the week. This week, we basically, Tyler and I sat down and recorded 5 tips on Zoho books, kind of these little beginner series we've got. Every month we sit down for 2 hours and just brainstorm, and our poor marketing department has to edit our 2 hours of rambling into 5 little videos. Anyway, this one is on setting up online payments. So head on over to the website or our YouTube channel and go ahead and check that out. All right. And now it's all about you, Raju. Let's talk about that. Should have been the title. It's all about you, Raju. See, had some alliteration there. So let's talk about 25 years of Zoho here. So as we, you guys just hit a big milestone, and we appreciate the opportunity to kind of talk to you about some of this stuff. So, we already kind of hit on privacy and security a little, quite in depth here a bit, but I mean, that's kind of been, I guess, the kind of the foundation that you guys have built things around. So my guess is that isn't going to change. So I guess the one question I would ask there is, one of the ways you guys have really tied that together is through your data centers. The fact that nothing sits on a third party. I mean, you take security to the whole next level, right? How's that whole data center expansion looking? I know things were kind of postponed a little bit because of COVID last year. You guys had big plans for 2021, but 2020, how are we looking in 2021 now?
2021 and 2022, the plan is to add at least 4 data centers between this year and next. Canada, Middle East will be the next priority. And then LATAM will be the one after that. So currently we have about 10 data centers. The plan is to add another 4, at least 4 in the next year or 2, if not more, ideally 6.
And I imagine there's constant upgrades going on at the current data centers as well. Bandwidth.
Absolutely. There is a data center part. It's only one part of it. There are other networks that are being built that are equally important, because data center will serve the users within the region and whatnot. But how does the networks and the POPs that we deploy all over the world? We have POP as point of presence. We have over 100 points of presence globally for certain things, and then we have something called edge networks. There are some edges that are available globally, and those edges are needed for certain applications. For example, take something like a meeting where we are streaming, video. In that case, it goes through the edge network. Or if you're uploading a video to Zoho Work Drive, you may have seen an acceleration of that upload speed. That is because you're connected to that edge network, and we had to make some deals on the network side. So data center certainly is one part of it, but going one level below that on owning some of these networks, building partnerships, building the connectivity directly, getting as close to the backbone as possible is an important part of it. So there's the network level, and even above the network level is the data center. So we are making good progress on both.
We want to dive in a little bit to some of the company culture and how that makes you guys so unique. We had a good time looking at the page that you guys launched, kind of celebrating the 25 years of Zoho and some of those kind of key elements of culture. I mean, maybe you want to walk us through some of what's been core, maybe some things that have changed, some things that have stayed the same, and why those are so important for your success.
I would say there's only one key core part, which is people. I keep telling our folks, and we are called Zoho for now. Who knows what will be called 10 years from now? Remember, prior to Zoho, the company used to be called as AdventNet. Not a lot of people know that. But guess what? Prior to that, we were called Advent Network Management Inc. Nobody knew that, right? But throughout,
that all spelled out with little blocks?
Actually, interestingly, that had the same colors as Zoho back then. And who knows what will be called, 10 years from now or 20 years from now. And we see that as an evolution. So we are enjoying the journey. Each one is basically a phase. The people that went through the journey is the same. We were part of that Advent Network Management. We were part of AdventNet. I was personally involved in the WebNMS products. I was involved in Man Engine products. Now I'm being involved in the Zoho product. Who knows what kind of brands or products or companies and how we'll diversify. It is the journey that matters. And all of us are enjoying that journey. it is the same set of people. It is the same set of people that created that piece of software that is embedded into printers and started selling to the optical companies, that started selling to or doing wireless management and whatnot. It is the same set of people that are doing accounting software or email software. So it is the people's evolution which makes up the company's evolution. So as a company, we kind of pivoted multiple times, evolved, kind of reincarnation, and we have kind of redefined ourselves multiple times. The change has been constant across the board, and people kept on changing. I think that is the thing. And along the way, we built some convictions. There are some learnings out there. Like, for example, we have a philosophy of zero debt. And because back in 2001 to timeframe, we had 304 customers. Over the course of a year, about 302 of them died. So what do you do when 99% of your customer base evaporates? If you had debts, you won't survive. At least we had some savings. And we had to use that savings to basically reimagine and completely pivot. And it's like starting over. And that was the birth of Manage Engine. And so now that belief about zero debt is so etched into it that we actually don't take any loan. It's a zero debt philosophy. All the purchases we make, no matter what we do, are cash only purchases. So similarly, so that is something that is etched in stone. So like that, there are a ton of things like belief in people and people pivoting and whatnot is etched in stone, where you just give someone an opportunity and they will prove. The pace may vary, but they will, as long as they have the passion, they will excel. So these are all things that we have learned over a period of time, and there's a ton of those things at multiple dimensions. It's tough to articulate it in a web page or whatnot, because these are feelings and whatnot. So we try to at least do put in some kind of a context in there, but there is more to a company and the philosophy than at the end of the day. Just like the products we created in 96 are irrelevant today, the products we create now will likely be irrelevant maybe 10-20 years from now. So what is relevant and what is going to be the strength of the company is essentially the people, the learnings, the collective experience, and those are things that are extremely important, and we pay very close attention to it. There are a lot of things that are measured in a company, revenue and performance or some such thing. But there are also intangibles that are not measured that are equally important. Like, for example, I call it familiarity capital. How familiar two people within a company working on a project are with each other. For example, take, say, me and Sridhar. We've been working for, say, a couple of decades. Sridhar, say, calls and shares an idea. He only has to say 2-3 sentences. I got it. Because I have a 20-year context out there. That familiarity that is developed between two people is extremely valuable, and people underestimate the value of that in the context of a company. That familiarity capital that is now spread across the company. When you have over 100 people who spent over 20 years in the company, you don't have to set the base and build a relation and discuss. The context is all there. When you have a few thousand people who've been the company 10, 15 plus years, you're starting at a different base. So for the last 25 years, what we have done is really that collective experiences that we have accumulated, created that familiarity capital for the company that the industry doesn't value, but as a company, we do value that a lot, and that's an extremely big, huge asset for the company.
Well, and it's real too. I remember I first engaged with you guys around 9 years ago, talking to you about your channel program and helping talk about that. And I was talking with Ian Bruce, and we actually went out and had a beer afterwards. And he had made this comment. He said, "Zoho's like family. I'm going to be here forever." Everybody, it's family. There's deep caring for your employees, right? Not just on a superficial level, but a real care about them, their personal lives, what's going on with them, all of that kind of stuff, right? There's no discarding somebody because they might be running through a rough patch kind of thing, right? It's, I mean, you're very careful in the employees you select, clearly, but there's a true care for your people.
It basically goes through phases. It also has to do with longevity, because you start like any other company, you start as a colleagues, right? When you keep, when you go through that journey for an extended period of time, the colleagues become friends, and then friends become part of the extended family. And when you've gone through that journey, both good times as well as bad times, which are equally important, then it becomes an extended family. And just like all of us know the family members of the senior colleagues or any of the colleagues we work with, and that's part of it. Because when we say it's life's work, we truly mean it. We put that on our website, right? And that's because we hope that the job that they take at Zoho, and this becomes the last job they ever take. So we want them to retire in the company, and that's the mindset, and that is the hope.
And so how do you think that translates as well? Obviously there are the internal benefits for your team and your ability to grow and retain employees, but it has an effect on customer success as well, right? When you kind of set some of those standards internally and you have those happy and committed team members. How do you think that translates from the customer perspective?
It directly translates. When the first thing is, when the employees are happy, the customers will be happy.
Yeah.
Or the reverse clearly shows through, right? If the employees are not happy, you can be sure that they're going to not treat the customers as best as they could, right? So which means if the employee happiness is taken care, then the ripple effect equally shows. Because they are happy, they're going to put that extra effort to keeping the customer happy, to improving the product, to keeping the partners happy, keeping the ecosystem happy. Because all of that comes from that. And that happiness is the first basic element, basic thing out there. And then, it shows across.
So if you look at, let's talk about R&D for a minute here. Mm-hmm. What are you guys up to? 9,000 employees now?
Closer to 10 now, yeah. Closer
to 10. What chunk of that is just straight up R&D development right now? It's a huge number, right?
From there is a core R&D, and then there is a pretty much product development and whatnot. I would say 50% is a good guess, at least.
So where do you see things? Can you give us any hints as to where you see things going in the next 3 to 5 years?
There is a Zoho side of things, and then there is a managed engine side of things, and then there are other investments that we make.
Medical devices and things like that, right? There's a whole bunch of things out there, right?
Absolutely. And all of those will go in parallel. And Zoho will keep doubling down, investing and whatnot. One thing you'll see us balancing in this case, we have kind of invested a lot in R&D. Maybe to some extent we have a lot to invest on some of the market-facing functions. I think that is where we will do, and this is going to be closer to the customer. So over the next few years, you'll see us investing a lot on regional teams. We are building a ton of teams, like here in US. Our regional heads are building teams in each of these specific regions. The market-facing function are going to be one of the direction. In terms of R&D, the product will continue to be deeper, go wider. And that is anyway going to continue. It's not just the number of products, but the depth of the product will keep increasing. And once we have a very, very strong horizontal platform, we might go down the path of vertical solutions. Again, that's way down the lane if we go down that path. But the idea really is to just create one of the best horizontal solutions out there.
Got it. So let's talk a little bit about Zoho One. I remember when this was announced, a lot of people thought maybe you guys had lost your minds, but it seems to be the game changer. I think initially in my conversations with you guys back when it happened, it was let's get adoption of a lot of our other products. We've got key adoption here, here, and here. And there was this bundling idea to make it available for the masses. Maybe I've got that wrong. Correct me if I do. But you clearly changed the landscape of, the all-in-one office suite, the one platform to run your entire business. Has it gone the way you thought it would, or has it been better, worse?
It absolutely has gone the way we initially thought, and we knew that this was a bold thing, but we knew that it has more to do with the belief than anything else. In 2012 is when we ran the first Zoholics, and my first session for that Zoholics was running your entire business on Zoho. That thing, ability to run an entire business on Zoho was part of the initial vision for a while, well over a decade. And the Zoho One idea itself kind of existed roughly since then. It evolved into it. The pricing and all of that wasn't decided and whatnot. But the idea is sound, and it simply made sense. It took us a while to even convert that idea into a product, because each of these components have to be mature and the market has to be ready. But once we put it out there was some reluctance year one, year two, and slowly over the last year or two, it started picking up. And now every vendor started seeing this. You'll see now every vendor wanting to be an operating system. And people call us crazy when we call it an operating system for business. Now everyone wants to call their offering operating system. Now Salesforce came out saying we are calling it operating system for work, and Uber wants to call it operating system for life, and keep going.
Yeah. Have you? But the pricing on that, just astonishing. Right? Even now, $45 per user per month if you're doing your whole employee, or I think or $105 if you're just ad hoc. Still less than a Salesforce CRM license, right?
Yeah.
And it's and yet it's all of these applications. When you thought of that, the internal discussions around that must have been heated as you came up with the pricing at such an aggressive level. And is that paid off?
It absolutely did. In the long run, we knew that it is going to work out. It is also important to take a scenario where you go beyond, developed countries. You have to look at the developing countries market. $30 a month is not cheap in a developing country. And if you consider broadly, it certainly is the right price. So there are two aspects here. The way I look at, we look at Zoho One pricing is look at how much you pay an employee, right, on a monthly salary, and how much are you willing to spend for all the tool sets that particular employee needs to get their job done, be productive and whatnot. What is it? $50 a month in the context of an employee salary, $30 a month is not significant. It's just a small percentage, and it has to be a no-brainer. And that was the initial thought process. If it is under $50, you're giving an employee all the tools they need, and they are going to be productive, then that's a win. So that's how we looked at it. And then there was a ton of other experiments and other pushback and other things. But there's another thing out there. It's easy to price something high. We can easily say $100 or $200. What happens in an organization is when you price high, your profits, margins, and all of that will keep going high. But subconsciously, the cost structure will also go high. And what is difficult to cut in an organization is that cost structure. Once it goes up, it's tough to pull it down. So we really wanted to consciously keep it so tight that there is a profit margin, but it's important not to be greedy. And that is an important thing. So leaving food on the table or leaving money on the table is not a bad thing. And that's a conscious effort out there. It's again a philosophical decision. And we made that call early on. And I'm actually glad we did.
And it's definitely paid off. I mean, I know that obviously there's a ton of value there. It would be worth it at a higher price, but we oftentimes just talk to customers who are blown away, right? With just the number of things you start adding up. Oh, you don't need DocuSign, you don't need this, you don't need that. And it's interesting what you talk about too there with that if you're overshooting where your price is, that allows cost to creep up. And then if you ever do need to decrease price to stay competitive, what's going to get caught or cut out of that cost that you've now kind of built? It's an interesting way to kind of rationalize that, where you kind of set yourself up for challenges later if you price too high. And one area that we use a lot internally, and that I know that you guys have been working on a ton over the last year because we cover all the news, is on AI and analytics. Maybe you could talk to us a little bit about how that kind of ties in. I mean, what you guys are doing with Zia is really cool, right? These things that are reaching across different applications. One of the interesting tools that we had pointed out to us was that you can have a operating system wide autocorrect, right? So that employees' names don't get messed up and, things like that. How do you see that playing into your continued growth and the value that it adds?
I think Zia is underestimated because there are a ton of technologies, at least 40, 50 technologies that are combined into that Zia. One of my favorite tools is search. And then things like using Zia for spell check, grammar check, and whatnot is an important part. So we had to go through a lot of AI engines, and remember that is unique for every language. So you have to understand the language structure before you can correct the grammar of a particular language, and understand that is a massive effort. So we are doing that. Now, pulling that out, and we call that blue pencil, pulling that capability of spell check and offering it system-wide is a critical piece. And in that particular case, now that there is a spell check across the board, and if you automatically added it to your dictionary, whether you are in a desk or whether in a word processor or an email, it should use the same thing. But then it has to be smart enough to recognize that employee names can be added. Maybe your items that you add to your inventory in your inventory system should be added. Those are the things that are the add-on. But that is one simple example of how the unification of an AI system can be helpful. Another example, people may not know it. You may have taken a photo of something in a different language and then add it to your note in notebook. But you go to Zia search, no matter where you are, search for, let's say, that particular word that may be in text, but the result may show up, which means when you take that photo and add it to the system, it goes through our Zia engine. Zia engine does various things. It does object recognition. So if there is a blue car there, well, when you search for blue car, that image shows up. It does OCR, optical character recognition. So which means it takes that, converts that into a text and adds the text as an index to that. And in some cases, that is also translated into multiple languages. So whether you search in Japanese or Spanish or something, the same thing shows up. These are all the things that people don't see, but they're delighted when that is converted, when that shows up. All of that is actually inbuilt. All the tech is inbuilt. And that is going to make its way into multiple search engines or multiple systems. We were using those signals across all of these to build what we call as work graph, which means if I'm searching for something based on my interactions with you, Zia is going to prioritize where it keeps you in that particular list. So things like that. There are a ton of things that are going on. I don't want to get too technical on that, but there is a differentiation as a company we can bring because we own all of these technologies. All of them are built in-house and neatly integrated across the board contextually. And that is going to be a huge differentiation for us. The hard work is done. Now it's about assembling each of these pieces and showing the output of it. And we are at that stage now.
Fantastic. Well, hey, we've taken up a ton of your time. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
I appreciate all the work you guys are doing as a partner on the ecosystem and whatnot. And I'm hoping that this is going to be a a multi-decade journey together, and partners are an important part of the broader community. And again, it's the extended family network out there. So I really appreciate all the work the team has been doing, and thank you for all the support.
Well, thank you, man. We love being a part of the Zoho family. All right, guys. Raju, thanks so much again. That is going to wrap it up. If you have any questions or comments, you can head over to zenatta.com or crmzen.com, or just email us at info@either one of those URLs.
And on the website is where you'll find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. So as you can follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, as well as on YouTube. We'll see you next Monday.